Hello everybody, and welcome to the second part of the Persona 3 video game plot summary. If you missed the first one, then the link should be in the corner. Let's get going. So Fuka fainted after the last episode and was in the hospital for about as long as Yusuf Ghibli was. However, when Fuka felt better, Akihiko called a meeting for everybody so that he can officially introduce Fuka Yamagishi to Seize and also explain that the full moon is the time when the boss shadows come out. Mitsuru gives her pitch for Fuka to join Seize, but she pretty much accepts before Mitsuru can finish the speech. Fuka is ready to get the heck out of her house and fight crime, but mostly to get the heck out of the house. Later on, Fuka's bully, Natsuki, finds Fuka and makes friends with her. Fuka has such low self-esteem that she accepts right away. Man, she doesn't even want to know what's in the fine print. The mysterious prison boy shows up while Yusuf is sleeping again and tells him he's starting to fill out his potential. So, now that Yusuf is cool, the mysterious prison boy wants to be his friend. But Yusuf Ghibli is not all about making any friends he doesn't know the names to. So the mysterious boy finally gives his name as Pharaohs. Thank goodness. Now if only we could get him to stop waking Yusuf up in the middle of the night. One day on the way home from school, Yukari and Fuka run into a very nice dog. An old lady passing by explains that the dog's owner died, and the dog goes on the same walk every day just like when it was with its owner, and then it hangs out by the owner's tombstone. I hope somebody feeds this dog though. After that, Seize meets up so Shuji can talk to the crew about shadows. Apparently there are 12 classifications of shadows. On the full moon, one of the boss shadows for that classification appears. Sort of. The first one was killed when Yusuf first unlocked his power, the second one was killed on the monorail, and the third and fourth ones were killed when Seize found Fuka. So that means they have 8 left. So that's the goal, even though no one knows why Tartarus even exists. After a while, we are shown a teenager lost in the dark hour, and then 3 people walk up on him. The pale young man, who by anime standards looks 30, informs the lost team that they are here to fulfill a hit contract on the teen. Of course, the teen turns and runs like an idiot, and the pale young man pulls out a gun and shoots the teen. Contract complete. A few days later, Yukari meets up with Fuka privately. Apparently 10 years ago, a bunch of students were reported absent. Yukari feels the disappearances have to do with the shadows. But Mitsuru is really vague whenever it's time to explain about the shadows, so Yukari suspects foul play and asks Fuka to help investigate. Side note, Yukari probably feels that the shadows were involved 10 years ago because Fuka's homeroom teacher, Mr. Akoda, automatically reported Fuka absent instead of telling the authorities that she had not been in class for a week or so. I found that pretty weird, but if he was at school 10 years prior, his actions make sense. On the night of the next full moon, Fuka senses the boss shadow in a building on Shirakawa Boulevard. Shuji says they have been finding the lost in pairs lately, and this is why. Apparently, that's the place in the city where the couple's to go to have hot, sweaty relations. Junpei gets excited about this, but Shuji tells him that's not the case, even though it is. I don't know why he tries to gaslight Junpei. Everybody's got to go there anyway. Also, in keeping with the tradition of being the lamest girl in the entire game, Yukari tries to bow out of this mission. Like the sight of a bed shaped in a heart is too much for her fragile eyes. Yukari is the worst. Anyway, with Yukari forced into the party to make joy-kill comments, Seize heads to the room where the Hierophant Shadow Boss is. By the way, all the Shadow Bosses are tied to a tarot card. Seize attacks the Shadow Boss and defeats it, but when it falls, it just kinda disappears in the black smoke. Nevertheless, the boss is defeated, so it's time to go home. Or is it? The moment they're about to put their hand on the motel room door, Fuka contacts them again to let them know that the shadow is still in the room. The crew investigates and finds one weird mirror, and upon touching it, they get sucked into a different dimension. Yusef Ghibli wakes up on one of those weird circular sex beds and notices the shower is running in the bathroom. There is a voice in his head that is trying to convince him to be horny? Yusef overcomes it, and just then the shower turns off. He takes like 2 steps towards it, and then Yukari's lame ass comes out. Apparently, when Yusef broke the spell, he did it for everyone. Well, Yukari comes to in the shower, and then puts a towel on and heads outside. Then she sees Yusef just standing there and runs over and slaps my dude. He is literally just standing there with his hands in his pockets. At this point, I am convinced that Yukari is based on the wife of one of the writers. Seriously, and this is the last rant I will have about her. But who makes room in their fantasy world for a woman who does nothing but drag the fantasy down? Who exactly does Yukari speak for? The demographic of women who hate video games? She literally does everything in her power to make you hate her. She spouts orders, she hides behind you after she initiates a fight, she wusses out when you need her to lead, she physically abuses you because she's embarrassed, and she threatens you about sexual thoughts that you aren't having, and never apologizes for being such a difficult twat. Do not date this woman. Alright, now that PSA is over. After getting unnecessarily slapped and threatened to not tell anybody about how he was just physically abused, Yusef takes Yukari out in the hallway to meet up with the others. It seems like the others have had the same problem too. I have to say that I picked Mitsuru and Akihiko as the 2 others in our group, but if I picked Junpei instead of Mitsuru, I wonder if the game would have done the same dialogue. Anyway, Fuka tells the crew that the boss shadow is in one of the mirrors. They run around and find the mirrors that have the magic seal. So once they find them by seeing their reflection in them, they head back to the hotel room to fight the boss in its final form. After defeating the boss, Seize heads home. But we find out that they were being spied upon by the 3 mysterious characters. The one with the glasses indicates that they have a buddy that knows how to handle the members of Seize. Later in the week, Shuji comes to the dorm and Seize informs him of what happened with the boss shadow. But before Shuji can continue the meeting, Yukari interrupts and calls out Mitsuru for being so shady about the Dark Hour. She has enough info to connect Tartarus to the explosion 10 years ago because of what happened to Fuka. Apprehensively, Mitsuru tells the story. Mitsuru's grandfather was obsessed with the shadows and tried to harness their power to use for scientific applications. During the last experiment, they lost control. An explosion happened and a big shadow got loose, split up into different shadows, and escaped. For some weird reason, the Kirijo group, the company that Mitsuru's family heads, decided to go do their experiments at Gekugan High School. Yukari is pretty pissed that Mitsuru didn't say anything in the first place, but Mitsuru takes full responsibility for not telling them, so it's done. With that said, Shuji continues the meeting and tells everyone that the 12 shadows are the reason for the Dark Hour in the first place. So that means if Yusef and the others take out all 12 of them, the Dark Hour should disappear. In the meantime, a few conversations happened. Akihiko went to see Shinjiro to tell him about how they plan to stop the Dark Hour, and we also find out that Shinjiro was part of Seize until he quit. Mitsuru came to Fuka to tell her that she knows it was her that did the research and not Yukari. I mean, Yukari is an idiot after all. Mitsuru wants Fuka to continue her research and find out as much as she can about the incident. Junpei is upset because he is a meathead and has no real skill or talent other than his persona, and even then he's pretty lame compared to the others. Yukari is sad. She received a letter that her father wrote to her about 10 years ago. He died soon after, and it so happened that he was a high-level scientist in the Kirijo group. Yusef gets a visit from Pharaohs, who reminds him that the accident that killed his parents happened 10 years ago as well. Later on, the group is getting ready to take exams, and Shuji surprises them at the dorm and tells them they are going to Yakushima to surprise Mitsuru's father at a vacation resort. Afterwards, Yukari chases down Mitsuru to apologize for being so aggressive. Really? She got Junpei punched in the stomach and said nothing to him. Sexist. Anyway, after the exams, Shuji shows up with a new candidate. His name is Ken. He is orphaned and in elementary school, but he has potential. And Ken's single-parent mom was killed a little bit ago. Since he was all alone in the dorm, Shuji is moving him to the C's dorm. Anyway, the group finally makes it to Yakushima, where they are greeted with a taste of what it is to be filthy rich. They also meet Mitsuru's dad, Takaharu Kirijo. While the others are on the beach, Mitsuru meets up with her dad, who immediately lectures her for being so shady. He's not interested in the cloak and dagger stuff and orders her to gather all the others so that he can tell them the full story. At the meeting, Takeharu tells everyone that his father was trying to make a time manipulation device using the power of the shadows. However, his father became a nihilist, which apparently led to his obsession to prove the existence of something. Anyway, he took it too far, and Takeharu plays footage from the experiments, and lo and behold, it's Yukari's dad. Hold on a second, this is a hard one. Eiichiro Takeba. Anyway, he's saying that they have all gone too far, and that they need to kill all the shadows to reverse what they have done. Yukari is pissed. She gets mad at Mitsuru, even though Mitsuru didn't know anything about it, and storms off. Yusef follows her. Of course, when Yusef finds her, Yukari starts talking to Yusef about how hard it was for her and her mom because people assumed her father messed things up because he was the leader of the science group. She believed he wasn't really part of this bad decision. But the video proves he did make the bad decision, and that's why she was so upset. Fortunately, Yusef was right there to comfort her. Right before it started to get uncomfortable or comfortable, Junpei pops up like, "Hey, were you guys about to start feeling on each other? Anyway, the dark hour's about to happen, so yeah." And then they all go back. But not without the feeling that Yusef is being watched. The next day, the ladies go on a walk in the woods, and Shuji calls Mitsuru to tell her that an anti-shadow suppression weapon is loose on the island. They try to call the guys, but they are too busy looking for women to harass on the beach. When the boys strike out enough with the ladies and one man dressed up as a woman, they finally run into this cute blonde girl. Junpei goes first and finds out that she is looking for someone special, and it's not him. Akihiko tries and gets ignored, but once Yusef tries, she turns around to look at him and runs away. Junpei thinks Yusef said something rude, so all three of them chase her to apologize. I don't know how smart that is for three guys to chase a single girl into the forest, but whatever. Yusef eventually finds the girl hiding behind a sign and figures out that this girl is the one spying on him when he was talking to Yukari. She professes that Yusef is the one that she is going to be with. That's when everyone comes through and starts asking questions like, "Why is he so smooth?" and "Why are you half naked in the woods?" and "Who the hell is this chick?" Anyway, before everyone gets confused, Shuji shows up and confirms that the girl is the anti-shadow suppressant weapon. Later, he announces that she will be coming home and joining C's. It's pretty peculiar that she turned on by herself because Yusef was close. But whatever. After the vacation, they go back to the dorm. At the same time, the creepy 3 Dark Hour assassins go to see Shinjiro. The one in green, Jin, and the hippie with the gun, Takaya, give Shinjiro some capsules. But instead of payment, they want to know why Seize is working so hard during the full moon. Shinjiro tells them that Seize is going to defeat all 12 boss shadows to end the Dark Hour. Takaya is all upset because he likes the Dark Hour and the power that he wields in it, but Jin calms him down and they leave. On the night of the half-full moon, Fuka calls everyone into the battle center. They found a shadow at the Naganaki Shrine. They suit up and get moving, but before they leave, Akihiko calls in and tells them that the shadow is already defeated, but they still need to hurry. When they get there, they find the dog from earlier, Koromaru, lying in a puddle of blood. He had been protecting his master's grave during the Dark Hour, and they take him to a vet despite the fact that they're in the Dark Hour and nothing works. A week later, during the full moon, Fuka senses a shadow in an underground bunker in the northern part of Iwatodai. When they get there, they run into Takaya and Jin, who introduce themselves as Strega. They can't let Seize complete their objective because it would be the end of everyone's powers. Takaya and Jin present the argument that Seize is using the concept of justice as an excuse to fight, but in reality they all have their own personal selfish reasons. Also, the reality is that humans will always find a way to be evil. So it doesn't really matter if they stop this evil specifically. Anyway, after dropping those contemplative points... Why did I do that to myself? Contemplative. Anyway, after dropping those contemplative points, Jin and Takaya close the bunker door and lock everybody in. Which is a good tactic when you don't want a rebuttal to your argument, am I right? Make your point and then slam a 10-ton door. Anyway, Seize goes into the bunker and defeats the boss shadow. Mitsuru calls Shuji to free them from the bunker. Now that is a great cell phone service. During the Dark Hour and in a bunker. The next afternoon, Mitsuru calls everyone in the battle center to present the newest Seize member, Koromaru. About a week and a half later, Junpei runs into a redhead at the main train station. She's doing artwork and kind of a jerk to Junpei, so Junpei leaves her alone, but he's pretty interested. Later still, Ken eavesdrops on Akihiko in another attempt to get Shinjiro to come back to Seize. Shinjiro says no again, and Akihiko presses by telling Shinjiro that it's been 2 years since they saw somebody die in front of them, and that he should stop beating himself up over it and let it go. Of course, Shinjiro doesn't let it go, and that's the end of it for now. But Ken seems visibly shaken over the conversation and makes it a point to remember Shinjiro's name. The next day, Ken asks Shuji if he can join Seize. Now he's on the team. A week before the next moon, Junpei sees the redhead again. This time, she isn't so cold. Junpei expresses an interest in her artwork, and she almost seems happy about it. Next time Junpei runs into the redhead, he asks her name. She tries to ignore him, but he then notices she has a big bleeding gash in her hand. He makes such a big deal about the gash that the girl appreciates his sentiment and rewards him by telling him her name, Chidori. Although she insists that the gash is absolutely nothing to worry about. I have to admit, with the other girls, Junpei comes off as slightly creepy, but this time he's pretty smooth. Of course, we already know this girl is the third member of Strega. Also, this story has a habit of only highlighting people that can go into the Dark Hour. 3 days before the full moon, Akihiko brings Yusef to see Shinjiro to inform him that Ken has joined Seize. Upon hearing this, Shinjiro joins immediately. Junpei runs into Chidori again. Chidori seems a little depressed, so Junpei tells her that he feels happiest when he's a hero. Chidori says she's impressed and that she wants to know more. So Junpei gets excited and diarrhea mouths his persona story to her. Then he lies to her and tells her that he's the leader of C's. Chidori tells Junpei she will see him tomorrow, and Junpei starts fist pumping over lying to a woman to gain her favor. Makes me glad I'm an adult. Anyway, the next night, which is a full moon, Meathead Junpei didn't see Chidori at the station, so he starts to head home and surprise! He gets kidnapped. Anyway, during the dark hour, Fuka finds the boss shadow at the Polonia Mall, but Junpei isn't there, and Shuji says it's no big deal for some reason, and they go to the mall. In the meantime, Junpei wakes up, bound in an empty room. Chidori shows up and commands him to call off the missions. You know, 'cause he's the leader. And Junpei surmises that she's part of Strega. Back at the Polonia Mall, the crew finds the coolest boss shadow in the game so far and defeats it. Just that minute, Fuka finds Junpei at the dorm and the crew hurries back. Meanwhile, Chidori finds out that C's is done with the boss shadow through her persona, Medea. Junpei asks her if she really cares about him, or was it just a clever ruse? But before she can answer, the rest of the C's members bust through the door. Chidori pulls out her evoker and is about to call upon Medea, but Junpei frees himself and knocks her evoker across the room. Shuji then states that she probably has the ability to conceal herself from other persona users. Shuji had no idea she was there. The tables have turned as now Chidori is the hostage. Actually, I don't think the writers want it to look like C's takes hostages, so Mitsuru says that they're just putting Chidori into the hospital to get some rest, and then later Mitsuru will ask her some questions. But we all know Chidori is basically a prisoner. Alright, hold on a second. Before we finish for today, let's just talk about Shuji. Shuji can stay awake during the dark hour, but doesn't have a persona. We established with Fuka's bully, Natsuki, that a person without a persona can't remember anything when the dark hour ends. So what makes Shuji an exception? As a matter of fact, this is true with a few people. Especially since C's has to figure out if the people can activate their personas before they ask them to join. I guess Fuka's story is a special one. Anyway, that's the end of part 2. I hope you guys are enjoying the story so far. And we'll be here with part 3 in a little bit. Seriously though, I've finished the whole thing, now I just have to voice everything, and it's, oh my goodness. So, if you respect at least the work that I'm putting into this, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment or something, let me know, specifically if my more excited tone of voice right now is better than the more chilled out, calm tone of voice I had in the last one. I'd really like to know that, because then I would have a standard or whatever. So, let me know. Alright? Anyway, I'll talk to you guys on the next one. Peace.